The definition of your mindset is the story you tell yourself. So there's 90% of the people listening to this podcast who want to start working out, but are not, simply for the fact that the story they're telling themselves is, I can't, or I'm too busy, or my body's getting old and it hurts. You know what I mean? So it's not, they're no different than you or me. You know, we're all the same.
All right, Charlie Lima, welcome to On the Verge right here. This is our podcast at Daniel Stark where we talk to ordinary people that get extraordinary results. And you're definitely one of those guys that's just extraordinary. Great friend of mine. We've known each other for a long, long time. Fellow Aggie, class of 06, Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology.
04.
04? Oh, you're 04?
But I graduated
I'm
in
96.
05, so
Okay.
somewhere in there.
Class of 04, married, beautiful wife, 4 wonderful kiddos, entrepreneur here in town with BoomFit. It's a CrossFit gym and personal training gym. Also big, he gives back to the community through BCS Classic and multiple other charities. He's an author, right?
Yep.
I read your book.
Yep.
You're an Ironman, multiple Ironmans. Just an overall amazing human being. So I'm just blessed to have you here today to learn about your life and what drives you. So thanks for being here, Charlie.
Wow. Thank you, Danny, man. Means a ton to hear that. So I'm honored to be here.
Man, you're one of the most enthusiastic people I know. Every time I see you, man, you just give me a big hug. You got a huge smile. You brighten everybody's day. So I want to start by telling the audience what a day in the life of Charlie Lima is like, starting with your morning routine.
Whew. Well, it's changed over the years.
Well, just tell us what it is now.
Right now, here in the last, I feel like month or 6 weeks, I've been getting up early. I can't fall back asleep. And as I've shared this very privately, probably with a handful of people just in a conversation, it's because I'm just so excited to wake up, right? I really am. And so sometimes it's been like 3 or 4. This New Year's, we kind of just, with the gyms, obviously January is a really busy month, having 2 locations now. Yeah. So it hasn't been necessarily anything special other than just doing what I do. And usually my alarm will go off at 5. And right now in this season, I have an appointment every day at 6.
Wow, it's early.
And I did...
personal training appointment.
Yes, personal training appointment. And so for me, a couple of days it's 5:45 and the other days it's 6. I always have a spark, so that's part of the routine. And then I'll have a coffee. Yeah. And then I'll head out the door. And I say that because for a long time, I lived in probably the answer that you might expect, or people who are about morning routines. I had mine down to a checklist system, and I was so adherent to it. And I kind of let it all go. And it felt free. Like it almost felt like for the first time, like I didn't have to do that. And I'm such a process rule follower. Like once I set my mind to something, like, and it shows me value, I want to do it every day. Yeah. And I don't want to say the morning routine stopped having the value, but I was removed from being a slave to that routine. Yeah. It is probably a better way to say it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can understand that too. And I think morning routines change based on what's happening in your life at any given time. And so it's what works for you at the time. But the point is, you do have a routine though.
Mine's a 24-hour routine. So it's not like, I think a morning routine is kind of like such a very, it's like an appetizer, right? Yeah. Because in reality, it's like, let's talk about the entree. Let's talk about the dessert if you're having one. Let's talk about the entire experience. And so for me, it's a 24-hour routine. And every day is going to have, it's not even a thought. Like I'm going to work out, right? So I like today, my day this morning, I woke up early. What I've been doing at like 3 or 4 in the morning is get on my laptop, and it's a great time for me to get a lot of the clutter out of my head and a little bit of the what's going to happen today kind of stuff, because once I'm on, I'm going and I'm more about being in front of people than hiding in an office, right? So
Sure.
that type of work doesn't happen. So that's kind of where I've found value in that. But I cold plunge and sauna, right, already today.
Nice.
I ran 30 minutes because today that's what time allowed. And then I'll work out later today. So those are always going to happen. Like I cold plunge sauna 7 days a week. I do 3 rounds, 15, 20 minute sauna, 3-minute plunge, 15, 20 minute sauna, 3-minute plunge, 15, 20 minute sauna, 1-minute plunge.
Wow. So you're spending an hour
every day.
sauna and cold plunge.
And I would say that that's given me so much more than any morning routine has ever given me.
Yeah.
And I say that like I'll schedule it because I can go whenever I want. They're open usually at 6 a.m. But I'll sometimes go right after that first appointment, like at 7:15, and that's a nice way. Sometimes I'll go, mid-morning, mid-afternoon. It just depends on my day. So there's not like a set time to do it.
Well, the beautiful thing is you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You work for yourself, right? Your boss doesn't get mad at you when you sauna in the middle of the day.
My boss would get mad at me if I didn't sauna cold plunge because I'm the boss.
That's right.
I got to do, what feeds me,
Sauna and cold plunge seems to be, something really popular right now. And, Julianne, my wife, she's like, I really want to get a sauna. So we did. And,
it's amazing.
You came over.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll show a picture of it. It's amazing. Oh my gosh. I do it at night.
Yeah.
So I'll sauna at like 9 o'clock and then cold plunge after that. And then I go to bed.
Yeah.
And so it just feels so good. It's crazy how good it makes you feel. And maybe I'll change it up for the morning and give it a try.
Dude, well, and again, it's not about morning. It's just any time of the day, right? For me, the evenings don't usually work. That's usually, I got 4 little kids, so I'm trying to get home. And but what I heard something the other day on a podcast, and it wasn't talking about sauna cold plunge, but it was saying when they found something at a certain age, they didn't realize they've been missing it their whole life. And man, that's exactly what I feel about sauna cold plunge.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I started doing it. And I want to do it every day.
Absolutely.
And the benefit is beyond the obvious physical benefit that people that know kind of the benefits. For me, it's a mental benefit. It's really I live on and I'm overstimulated because I'm so excited to be alive.
Yeah.
And it opposes that by bringing me down. And
And you can't take your phone in there.
No, yeah.
It'll ruin it. So that's good.
It
That's
down
a good
regulates
thing.
me. I'll do a meditation in there. And it's just, it's very restorative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good word. And, with as an entrepreneur, because this podcast is a lot about entrepreneurship. How do people that have built a great business, which, you and I had a conversation recently. I mean, you've grown this business over
20 years.
20
This
years.
year.
20 years. I know there are statistics out there about sizes of businesses and things, but there's so many businesses in America that never reach the level that you've reached in your business. So it's an incredible milestone that you reached just like last year, where you're literally in the top 10% of all entrepreneurs in the country, right? I mean, come on, man.
Thanks,
come
bro.
on. That's
Means a lot.
incredible. And so to do that, though, you have to have a tremendous amount of energy. It's a lot about energy management and bringing it 100% all the time. Not only, for your family, for your team, they're looking at you, watching you. And so what I love about, what you're doing is, you work in this, you live this every single day. So you would kind of think that you'd get tired of working out because you do it for a job. It'd be like, I love fishing. So it'd be like me being a fishing guide. I might get tired of fishing. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe that's impossible. But, you're in this work and you're living it from, like you said, it's a 24-hour routine, right? You're working out, you're taking care of yourself. But that's boosting up your energy is what I'm hearing, and that's allowing you to take it to the next level.
It's the inputs, right? So what I say is for me to be me, right? For me to be the Charlie that the world needs me to be, those inputs are the most important things that I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, Danny, like personal training is an input. Like I feed off of, like when you and I are working out in your garage, like that is, of course, me helping you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I enjoy it, right? It's an input.
Yeah.
Whereas some people might be, there's exercises like what are the things that you do every day? Okay, put a +1, things that give you extra energy, put a -1 for things that take energy away, put a 0 for things that are neutral. Mm-hmm. The training people, right, along with cold plunge sauna, along with running, along with CrossFit, along with eating healthy, those are all inputs. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I have to do nothing but inputs, because when I don't, you're going to get a different Charlie, right? I'm not so strong-willed that I can show you a version of me that when I'm empty. So I have to be very intentional, and eventually they just become the way I live, right? It's not trying or thinking, it's just doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that recently, I really moved from exercising for the vanity of it, mm-hmm. right? And really more exercising and eating for longevity, because I turned 50. Mm-hmm. And it was a wake-up call. And the crazy thing is, and this happened before I turned 50, so it's been going on a couple of years, but no longer was it an issue. Like, I track every workout, and I would try and do 150 workouts, and then it was 200, and then it was 250, and now it's like it doesn't even matter anymore, because there's zero chance it's not going to happen. Yeah. Because I'm not doing it really for the outward appearance of it. I'm doing it for the way it makes me feel, in the hope of being, alive longer and having mobility longer. Absolutely. And it's crazy how a mindset, almost a perception change, it's just a perception change, changed exercising and eating well from work to life.
Yeah.
It's just what you do.
Well, it's so important to tell yourself that story, right? Because the definition of your mindset is the story you tell yourself. So there's 90% of the people listening to this podcast who want to start working out but are not, mm-hmm. simply for the fact that the story they're telling themselves is, I can't, or I'm too busy, or my body's getting old and it hurts. You know what I mean? So it's not, they're no different than you or me. We're all the same.
Right.
We got the same 24 hours, same opportunities. Yeah, each of us have some unique challenges, mm-hmm. but ultimately the story you tell yourself matters. So if your story is, I want to live longer, I want to be stronger, I recognize that as this body ages, things happen naturally that I have to counter if I want to be 60 and feeling better than I do today.
Sure.
And that mindset is important. So it's like, I call it stages of your fitness journey. So you just described what I would call like the 3.0 level, because the 1.0 level is how we all got in.
Right.
I want to look good with my shirt off. I want to find a girlfriend or boyfriend or a spouse, like I need to fit in these clothes. And that's totally, I think that's great. Whatever got you in.
Sure.
But as you start climbing, your purpose becomes stronger. I just climbed a mountain with my dad. He's 70. We went to California, Joshua Tree, California.
Yeah.
Climbed a mountain. It was 1,000 feet elevation over 1.5 miles.
Wow.
His heart rate was like 159 the entire time, which for him, that's high.
Pushing it. Yeah, that's pushing it.
And I loved doing it, number one, because I was with my dad. But, man, I got a front row seat to aging, right?
Yeah.
Like, he got back and, he's like, man, I need to get back in the gym. And, of course, all the things. But it was special because it was he and I. But that's what it's about.
Absolutely.
That's what it's not about the Ironman. It's about my son says, hey, let's go climb a mountain. And I'm 70. And I'm like, dude, let's go. And I'm like, hey, keep up.
I went to Colorado with a bunch of lawyer buddies. And I've got a few of them that are, let's see, I'm 50, probably, they're 65, between 60 and 65. And I took them on this 30-mile mountain bike ride. And mm-hmm. these guys are in good shape. And I had a couple of the younger lawyers from the firm go with us. Couple of people dropped out at about the 10-mile mark.
Wow.
And these guys, man, one of them from Connecticut, the other one's from South Carolina. I couldn't believe it. They were so strong.
Wow.
And they didn't complain. They just ate it up, and it just gives you a view into, man, if you just – now one of these guys, he brings his Concept 2 rower with him when he travels. Like, that's how dedicated he is. But he's 65 or 67, and he's just a beast. And you can do it. And I love meeting people like that because it's like, oh, you can do that. And I want so badly to be able to continue to do that when I'm 70.
Yeah.
Like go for a hike, go for a mountain bike ride, even if it's a high elevation location. And because we worked hard all our life, and then all of a sudden you have a little bit more freedom, and then you're sick.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, the perspective that I like to share with people is almost like finances. Everybody understands saving for retirement, whether they do it or not. They understand the idea.
Yeah.
And they either invest or they put money aside or they start thinking in advance. Nobody's doing that with their health, right? Like if I want to be at a certain place when I'm 65 in my health, then I need to start doing this at age 45.
Sure.
And the earlier I start, the better. Or 75. And, Dr. Tia wrote a book called Outlive. It's really good about longevity, and you've probably read it and a lot of his content. But it's a very simple mathematical equation. You are losing muscle and losing fitness as you age. So if you have an aspiration to say, I want to go climb this mountain at 70 or ride this bike at 65, you have to have a VO2 max of this number.
Sure.
Let's test today. Age tells us that it will go down unless you're doing something about it, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like spending and saving and, so inflation and all those factors that we understand mathematically with finance, but our health, it's like we just have this expectation. It'd be like retiring and stopping your job entirely or stop working and just thinking there's gonna be money in the bank.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden there's not, and you're like, well, that's what people do with their health. Yeah. I'm going to just keep living the way I live. And I just think when I wake up when I'm 70 that I'm going to be able to do the things I want to do.
Sure.
And that's not how it is.
No, that doesn't work that way. I'm glad you brought up a T. I read that book. And before that, there was, I can't remember the author, but Younger Next Year. That was a wake-up call for me. The whole concept that you're going to lose muscle as you age, but you could. Well, it's not really that you're going to lose it. It's harder to make a gain. So it's harder to add muscle after a certain age. So the whole concept of Younger Next Year is don't lose it.
Yeah.
So if you just do something every single day, well, then you'll be younger next year than you would have been. And it's it's not the biological age. It's the, you can test and you can get these metrics on what your fitness age is.
Yes.
And I think it was you encouraged me to go get, the VO2 max, that body scan, what's it called?
And DEXA scan.
Yeah, the DEXA scan.
Yeah.
Went and did that. And you can't master what you can't measure. So that was really great.
Yes.
Just to get like, hey, what's my baseline?
Yes.
Wait, where am I at? And then you can go in next year and remeasure and see how you're doing. That's really a neat thing.
Yep.
With Atea, Huberman, various, especially with the podcasts, all the information you can get on fitness now, they're conflicting in a lot of ways for people. And, you should take these vitamins. Or I even saw like RFK Jr., since the whole, Make America Healthy Again, and he had something blue that he put in his water, and everybody wants to know what it is and what does that do. Yeah. And it's like everybody has something different. And so how do you people navigate? I mean, I have what I like. I mean, I'm on a routine too, and I have certain vitamins and things that I take, and my nutrition and what we eat. And thank goodness Julianne's super into it, so she's has us eat really healthy. But like, how do you sift through all of the information and various? Oh, you should take fish oil. And then I heard a guy on a podcast the other day. No, you shouldn't take fish oil. It's terrible for you. Tell the audience.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
I love you brought this up, and this is how I answer this question. Because we've all been on this journey. I started my journey at 18, and I was at a point where I had no idea what I was going to do. I was 242 pounds, just didn't want to be fat, anymore. Now at 43, I know a lot more, but the best class that you can take is, for you, class about Danny. And for the person listening, it's the class about themselves. In other words, you need to become your own case study, because what works for Charlie Now, there might be some structure there that pretty much works for most. But man, when we start, like, you are optimizing for you. Does that mean every person listening needs to sauna cold plunge 7 days a week? No, like that might actually be terrible for them because they might hate it. Your thoughts matter so much.
Sure.
And so when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to exercise, sleep, all of the things the information, what I recommend is first starting with something that, you can trust. In other words, I'm going to read this book that I put a lot of hope in, a lot of trust in, and then I'm going to talk to this person. I think hiring somebody is what I would say the fast track to the best results, because you can learn it on your own, but it's just going to take you longer than if you hire me, because I've been doing this 25 years, like I'm going to get you where you want to be. I had a guy, I'll tell this short story. I've known him for probably 15 years, but not really on like we hang out or anything like that. One of my other clients has been best friends with this guy for a long time. Mm. That's actually how I met him the first time. The guy that I'm talking about that I don't know very well, he wanted to give his sister a kidney. Wow. She was going into dialysis.
Yeah.
He's 65 years old, and he started filling out an application online, and he comes to a stopping point because he's too overweight to give her a kidney.
Wow.
They won't let him. Or it won't allow him to keep going on the application.
Yeah.
So he calls his best friend, who's my client, and tells him, and he's like, what do I do? He goes, call Charlie. So he calls me. That was a Thursday morning. We met at the gym that day at noon.
Yeah.
I got him on the InBody. He was 300 pounds. And so he actually needed to be like 267, 269, something like that. And he was in a moment where it wasn't even about him. He's been trying to lose weight and knows he needs to lose weight for a long time. But it was about his sister. She was like in a point that she needed a kidney. Mm-hmm. And I never knew about all the kidney things that I know now after him sharing with me, but it's pretty darn hard to get one.
Yeah.
And so he was so motivated, got him on the InBody. I said, all right, we're going to do something with you that I don't typically do because you have an aggressive goal and you need to meet that goal very quickly. We lost 30 pounds in 30 days.
Wow.
And it's incredible what happens when you follow again, safely. What was even more affirming is when he did the InBody, he actually gained 0.5 pound of muscle. So every pound he lost was fat. Because if you're doing it the wrong way, you're going to lose a lot of muscle, right?
Sure.
And we know the first 15, 20 pounds are probably easier.
Yeah.
Today, he's 252 pounds. How long was it going to take him to do that on his own? Yeah. I mean, probably never, but let's say 6 to 12 months, because he's starting and stopping and questioning everything. But we pinpointed everything to the macronutrient, to the calorie intake, how we were going to do this, to the at-home prescribed workouts, to the in-the-gym prescribed workouts. So hiring somebody is always going to get you there faster.
Sure.
So that's part one.
Okay.
The second part to that is that person. So even though I'm the one who is leading him on this journey, he knows his body better than I do. Mm-hmm. So part of that is like, okay, getting some foundational principles, some fundamentals. But man, this thing gets more sophisticated because I'm experimenting with myself.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the learning. And that's what people don't want, because what people want is, hey, give me the checklist. Give me the how-to.
Yeah, and I think too, what I've seen, this probably goes well outside of fitness too. It's any discipline, anything that you're trying to get better at professionally or health, what doesn't matter. A lot of times people want people to do things to them instead of me doing it for me, right?
That's right.
Like, hey, what can I do? And I think in the medical world now, it's like, well, you can go get a procedure, or you can, or I can go somewhere and they're gonna laser me or whatever. And I'm not saying those things aren't good, but it can't be just that. Like, you have to do something yourself. You've got to pick the right food. You've got to actually do the exercise. You can't just go get a treatment and get better. So, I don't know. It's just, that's something that's I've noticed recently where people just seem to like, well, I just want this to be done for me. And that doesn't work.
The morning routine is a great example, right? I mean, I did what I thought was the optimal morning routine for a long time, only to find out that, and maybe it was, I don't know, but at that time, but now it's not.
Yeah.
You know, my alarm will go off at 5, right? Like weekdays. That's the time I'll wake up if I sleep till 5. So it's not like I'm trying to wake up at 3 or 4.
Sure.
And a lot of times it's kind of like a game. Like I always pee, and I like if I look at my watch, I'm afraid I'm gonna like be awake.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I don't look at my phone. But ultimately it's like, no, like what I'm doing right now. I mean, somebody could come right now. You could have interviewed the best morning routine person ever, and then you're like, Charlie, you got to listen to my podcast, man. It's got the ultimate. I'm like, no, dude, I'm good. I'll keep my routine. It works for me.
Sure.
And that's how it should be with nutrition, with fitness, with
Absolutely.
health.
And you got to know what you want, right? You know what you want. You've spent enough time. You've tried various things. You know what you want. And then once you know what you want, you can make a plan and execute the plan. I do think knowing what you want is really difficult sometimes, though. Mm-hmm. You know, and you've got to just
that's the beginning.
Battle with
that's
that.
where you hire the expert.
Yeah.
Or you read the literature, or consume the content. Now, here's the thing: is you got to be selective about the content you're consuming, right? You got to make sure the people that you're listening to are going to lead you in the right direction. Especially today, when everybody has a podcast, everybody's writing a book, everybody's got a YouTube channel, and so you have to kind of say like, okay, it's almost like. It's like being a Christ follower is like you've chosen to follow this one person, right? So it's like you want to follow or it's essentially be discipled by this person. And is this person somebody that you would consider yourself a follower of based on how consistent, how long they've been doing it, right? So me as a trainer now for 20 years compared to when I first started, right? When I was 21 years old, I'm like, I'm learning, right? So, but now, I mean, it's like somebody can just like breathe and I know what's going on, just because I've been doing that for so long.
Yeah. So for the audience, just I'm imagining that some people are saying, well, it must be nice, but I can't really afford that. What would that cost somebody? And would you say it would be like a 3-month investment? Is this a 6-month, a year, maybe?
I love this conversation because I'll tell you, it's costing you a lot more not doing it. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you have to, but it's kind of like me not hiring you on one of these cases.
Sure.
You're going to make up that fee because you're going to get more for me and probably lead me better in this process than I would have led myself or with somebody less experienced, right? So it's almost like your cost is actually not negligible. It's like non-existent because otherwise I wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
Sadly, we can't understand health that way. It's costing, if you're listening to this podcast and you're unhealthy, it's costing you 5 to 10% of your income to be unhealthy, period. Like, so call it a tithe, right? Towards yourself that you're going to put towards your health because ultimately you don't understand how much it's costing you not doing it. So if you're, and that could look a lot of different ways, right? It could, not saying that I'm a Peloton guy, but maybe it's just buying a Peloton.
Sure.
It's got a trainer every day. Maybe it's getting a gym membership and hiring a trainer. Maybe it's, asking a friend to start working out with, it's just a lot. It's like cars, right? Like there's $150,000 cars and then there's $25,000 cars. Just, everybody's got to drive.
So what you're saying is you can get in the game for anything.
Yes.
Really anything.
And again, it goes back to mindset because sadly enough, people have like this understanding like of cost that is like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine paying $150 a month at a gym. And I'm telling you right now, $150 to $200 a month in just about any town in America will go a really long way with fitness.
Sure.
$2,500 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you need. And then just get everything out of it, like use all the amenities, like schedule goal setting sessions. Yeah. Meet with the trainers.
I'll tell you, I do like I loved CrossFit for so long, and it was getting a little hard on my joint, and I've shifted to something a little different that's a little more mobility, but I do love the lead type of gyms, right? So like CrossFit, where you've got a coach in there, and it's not just for you. It's, there might be 10 or 15 other participants, but it makes a difference for me.
It's the group model. So, it doesn't have to be CrossFit. It can be, there's a lot of different versions of this. But what I say is technically there's hiring a personal trainer, which is one-on-one. Yeah. It's all about me. I get to schedule the time. I get all the attention. It's programmed for me. Or you can hire a personal trainer that you share with others.
Sure.
And that's what group training is.
That works for me.
And that's, yeah.
Of course, I love working out with you, but it's scheduled. And my schedule as an entrepreneur is not the same every day. So if you ask me my morning routine, it would be, it's so random because it depends on my schedule. And so, it's hard to schedule out another thing. So for me, when I know that I can go to a class, a coach-led situation, and there's 10 of them in a day and I get to pick, well, then I've got a lot of flexibility.
That's right.
But again, it's just figuring out what really works for you. That's what works for me right now. And I've had you as my personal trainer for a number of years too. So we used to do it totally different. Then I went to your CrossFit gym for a number of years and I did that. So I've worked out on my own for a long time too. So it just kind of depends on what your stage of life is, what works for you at that time. And you have to adjust. You just have to adjust for life. Speaking of adjustments, what about setbacks? And when I think about setbacks, I think about personal injuries that happen to you that kind of put you behind, or maybe it's emotional injury of loss of somebody in your life, or maybe they got injured, or a disruption in a marriage. I mean, there's so many various things that people go through. I know you've had some setbacks. I've had setbacks.
Yep.
Let's talk about how do you deal with those? Because you're such a positive person. And I know you've had challenges in life, and yet I've never seen you down, ever.
Well,
ever, man. Like, so how do you bring that? I mean, even in the hard times, how do you do that?
I think I'll speak broadly, and then we can go like very granular. But I think we default to whatever our default settings are, right? So your default setting is what you do naturally that makes up who you are. It's almost like your core values, not because you've put them on the wall, but it's just like if, now there's AI. If AI was to just observe you for 365 days, your calendar, the words, the language, the time you spend with people, the emails you write, the text messages you send, all the things that you purchase, everything. And imagine if AI said, these are your 3 core values.
These are your,
And I think that would be fascinating because ultimately it's not what you think it is. It's who you are. Yeah. So we'll call that your default setting.
Okay.
And when it comes to challenges, we need to understand that we're building a default setting with our daily habits. Everything we do. Right? So it's like, I don't want to just become a person that wakes up early. Dude, I've been waking up early since I had a 5 a.m. when I was 21 years old and I was a junior at A&M. And that's when I started doing it. I used to have 8 a.m. classes and I thought those were early, but when I started personal training, a guy who wanted to work out at 5 a.m., it taught me there was a morning that existed long before the morning. And since then, it's somebody looks at me. It's funny when I'll do consults at the gym and somebody's like, I go, do you like working out in the morning, midday, evening? Like morning. I'm like, okay, well, define morning. Because to some people, 8 a.m. is morning.
Yeah.
And to others, it's 5 a.m. But to be a morning person, it's not like just it's going to happen. It's actually you have to do it a lot without wanting to. But let's say that becomes important to you. So it becomes a value or an input or a default setting. When challenges come, think about it more than anything. You completely become your default settings because there's a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's emotional, but it's also maybe a fitness injury. So what is your mental state in a default setting? Like my dad gave me, like truly there's a proverb that a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Remember that?
Yeah.
So generational, what somebody might call blessing or wealth, I interpret that differently because it's not money. He's obviously been a provider and ensured that I had what I needed. But what he gave me is a positive outlook on life.
Yeah.
Man, and I'm giving that to my kids.
That's awesome.
That's a default setting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really take credit for it. I mean, I was in the car. My dad was listening to cassette tapes from Tony Robbins,
Zig
Ziglar, and everything that would happen in any way, he put a positive spin on it, right? And so I was almost brainwashed to view the glass half full, right? Mm-hmm. Almost to the point where it was probably obnoxious to people.
Yeah.
But that's just who I am, right? So it's like, it's hard to see something, but I say that because that's a default setting. But when you're faced with a challenge that really is like, there's no positive that you can come up with here. Like this is, it actually challenges who you are.
Yeah.
And that is a journey that is, it could be an injury. I've thought about like, what if you got paralyzed?
Absolutely.
And, and I think that's where you're going to go down a journey that in my belief system, and I've been through this journey, it's very, like, if we call it dark, it's very, you have to find out who you are. But what I will say is you come out of it stronger. And there's no like particular way to prove that.
Yeah.
But I think that's humanity, right? Through all the ice ages and the wars and the challenges that we face. I think there is just something innate inside of us that always is going to persevere. And I call it, there's two people. There's people, and we're talking about people who aspire to be humble. Mm-hmm. Well, you either aspire to be humble or you have been humbled. And I don't think the aspiring to be humble, I think, is actually ego, because you're wanting to be better. You're wanting to be the best, right? So I want to be the best humble person. When life humbles you, that's when you go down to the dark journey to figure out what's in there. And I do believe I defaulted in fitness for me. Like that was my default setting. So I found a lot of time, a lot of solitude, but a lot of strength in fitness. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was riding the bike, running, working out. It was but I'd been building that default setting for 20 years.
Sure.
So, other people might go to drinking, right? Yeah, in a really hard season, or might go to drugs or, other addictions, right? So for me, I don't know what your default setting is if you're listening and if you're either in a hard time or but what I can tell you is if you're not in a hard time, build the default setting that best serves you.
Absolutely.
Because if I would have been building a default setting, of alcohol, where that just became, not because there was anything wrong, but like it just.
That's what you went to for relaxation, let's say.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah, sure.
If I would have built a default setting of pain medicine or, some form of pills to, that's what I've been. So when you go through those hard times, right, the thing that I'm saying is just be aware that the thing that you're going to lean on is the default setting that you've been creating for your life.
Sure.
It's not about this, now I'm going to start doing this, or now I'm going to start, no. And hopefully the thing that you've built that default setting on is something that will serve you well through that journey, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, to get out of it on the other side. Because that's really what we're doing, is we're just managing pain, emotional, mental, physical pain.
Yeah. And time heals. Hopefully it won't be a 5-year journey.
No, that's right.
Time heals. I mean, I like that you brought up some things, because I thought, as you said, default, where, that's like you were saying, your dad, he kind of gave you this positive attitude. Some other people may not have had that, but I like how you got to the point of you can build that. There are personality profiling. There's a bunch of different ones on the market. You can go pay a small amount of money and get them done, and it'll give you, based on the way you answer certain questions, what your defaults are. I actually did that years ago, and one of my defaults was a really low nurturing score. And the discovery of that was like, oh, wow, is that why, I'm so hard charging? And I look back, I'm like, what happened to all y'all?
Yeah.
We're at the finish line,
That's
man.
right.
We won. And they're all like, yeah, great. And I'm excited, but they weren't. Well, it was because I didn't nurture them along the way. And it was a constraint in my life. And it was I was hurting people as a result of it. But it was also one of my greatest strengths because nothing bothered me. I could just plow and power through. And one of the biggest changes was just recognizing that, man, I'm a low nurturer. And I got to do something different. And I've gotten feedback from my team that have been with me a long time that, like, I'm different now. Somehow they stuck around. But you can fix your default. The point is, and I actually sought some help from an expert.
Yeah.
That said, hey, I want to fix this. Tell me something. They gave me some super simple techniques like go to the grocery store, note the person's name, and use it 3 times before you leave. Simple.
Love it.
Totally simple. And all of a sudden you start seeing people as a human. And that's just one little bitty example, but this stuff isn't hard. You just need a few tools. And so,
And I would add to that, Danny, that before you started training a new improved default, when you were the most stressed, you probably were the least nurturing.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so it's
still that way.
Okay.
I mean,
that's what I'm talking about when you go through challenge, right? Because that was the whole point of the beginning of the topic is when you go through obstacles, you revert to the worst version of yourself, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So the highest stress produces. So if you're not training that aspect, right, then you're going to be, and again, it all depends. Some people don't care. They have no nurturing and they're like, hey, I get things done and I'm okay with it. But you obviously do care.
Well, yeah. And this is something, this was so long. I mean, this was probably 15 years ago, but I remember what the expert told me. He said, hey, you know what, Danny, you are 100% okay with who you are right now. No, you don't have to change a thing for you. It's for them. Mm. It's for your wife. It's for your kids. It's for your team. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're happy not brushing your teeth, it doesn't matter to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the only reason why you need to do that is, if you don't care about it, is so that you don't disgust other people. So it's like you have to want to change for somebody else.
That's right.
When you have a bad default, like number one, you got to recognize it. Number two, you got to seek something to figure out, hey, what are some tools that I can help reset the default? And then 3, you got to take action. You got to actually do those things and work on them all the time, because I'm 15 years in and I can just tell you, when you're under a stressful time period, it is easy to want to default back to that. So it's repairable. That's the point I just want to make, is that it's repairable. You can work on it, but you gotta recognize it.
On the injury piece, because I've hurt myself. I've never had any major surgeries or anything to that degree, but I've hurt my back a few times, enough to make me very cautious, especially with clients, but also myself. And the biggest thing that I've learned in those moments, because I've had times, where I'm like, I can't tie my shoe. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I have no business. Because what I've learned is when I hurt myself, it's the worst thing I can do, because it's taking away the thing that I love to do that fuels who I am.
Right.
So an injury is way more costly for me, because it's the exercise is the rocket fuel to me being me.
Yeah.
And so, but I've had now this perspective of, number one, this is the question I ask myself. If I'm completely honest, this is what happens. This is how I frame it, right? This is the story I tell myself. Okay, God, you got my attention.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's what I do. Like if I just got hurt, like, God, you have my attention. Because basically it just took away my favorite toy, which is working out. And he didn't do it. I did it. But ultimately it's and it's that alone has helped me frame it more to a positive, right? It's not a positive in the sense I'm happy to get hurt. No, it's just like, okay, instead of just being like, oh, I'm hurt, okay, you got my attention. And I'm not necessarily looking for an audible answer. I'm just saying, look, I got more time on my hands. I mean, I spend a lot of time fitnessing.
Yeah.
And so what do you want me to use that time for? Maybe it's the gym. Maybe I need to work more. Maybe I need to, hang out with my family more. Maybe I need to just do something that I'm not doing. Now he gave me 10, 15, depending on the time of year, 20 hours a week back.
Yeah.
And then what I also say is this is not forever. And what I mean by that is I've been hurt enough to know there's one thing that has always happened. I've always come back.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 2 days. Sometimes it's a week. Very rarely has been probably more than 2 weeks to the point where, and sometimes I'll move, right? Because it's kind of like being sick. Mm-hmm. When you're sick, you realize how great you feel when you're not sick because you're like, I feel, I guess I take for granted how good I feel all the time. So an injury is not forever. And that's an important thing to remind yourself because in the moment you start questioning everything. Mm-hmm. Should I not be working out? Yeah. Should I not be doing this? Is this, you start, because you're hurt, right? You're emotional. I always say like the beauty of me training you is I'm not emotional about what you feel. Yeah. I'm objective. Mm-hmm. Like, Dad, your heart rate's okay. Yeah. Like, keep walking.
Yeah, you can make
We're going to go. And so as opposed to in the moment, you sometimes feel like, oh. Yeah. And so, you need to have some frame or some way, a perspective when you get hurt so that it doesn't cause you to fall off the wagon, question everything you do. It's a big part of it.
Yeah, I love that. God, you got my attention. Because I had a really bad injury recently. It was about 4 weeks out. And for 2 weeks, I couldn't get out. I didn't even drive my car. And then I could walk. I tried walking to the end of the street, which isn't very far, and I couldn't make it. And it was so disappointing, right? I was with Julianne, and it's just like, I can't make it. I had to go back. The next day, I made it to the end of the street. And then the next day, I made it all the way around the block. And then, progressively got better to where, I'm almost through this. It's the longest recovery I've ever had. But during the time, I even questioned, man, am I doing something wrong? Am I being punished? And I know that God doesn't punish because you wouldn't punish your own child for making a bad decision or whatever. But I love your statement of, hey, you got my attention because he got my attention. Yeah. I was definitely paying attention. Yeah. And reconsidering lots of things in my life. And it just, a lot of time on the couch. I'm talking about 2 weeks on the couch to think about what's gonna be different. Yeah. How am I gonna avoid this? How do I spend more time with my family? All these things. But man, it's almost a blessing. Really. In hindsight,
it's coming out on the other side.
I'm coming out the other side, and it's a blessing because I will make a few changes. Pain does cause change. Mm-hmm. And so again, it's just powering through and getting to the other side. Yeah. Man, I want to close with some final advice. Just, you're 43.
Just turned Sunday.
Happy birthday. Let's talk to your 20-year-old self when you first got started with your business, right? It was about 20.
I was 23.
23, all right.
20 years ago.
Your 23-year-old self, what would you tell yourself because of what you know now? What would you tell your 20-year-old self about business, about life?
Man, that saying, it's a loaded question. So one thing that I've learned too is, and I've had this exercise in my head of even the 80-year-old version of me coming back and talking to me. Yeah. And the one thing that I like to frame this in is I am for me, right? So as a 23-year-old, it's sometimes you don't, you almost are so independent and you're so very determined that sometimes you can almost, so at first thing I'd be like, hey, Charlie, I'm you. Yeah. I'm for you. This is you need to know this. We're doing really incredible things. And I would just, if I'm honest, say, keep working out. That's your number one. That's your rocket fuel. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm 43 and I've been working out. I've probably taken 100 rest days in 20 years. No exaggeration. Yeah. Seriously. I would say focus, but I'm also man, sometimes my strength is just how much I've just thrown tons of darts, right? But maybe focus on, I would say like probably hire a person that complements your personality, but I don't know if the 23-year-old version would know what that means. So like that's a 43-year-old like brain telling a 23-year-old like what I know now. I'd be like, dude, if you had a yang for your yin or yin, like you'd be unstoppable.
But to that point, maybe it's just surrounding yourself with good, positive people.
Yeah, and I think that the question also means that I'm like in some way like not really happy with how my 20 years have been, because honestly they've been great. Like, and that might be my optimism and positive outlook talking, but ultimately like I love what I do. Like it's not work. Like, I mean, there's aspects to it. I would say this because the most stressful times in the 20 years has been the financial stress, right? For different reasons at different times. And I would say, look, this is what I would say. I'd say, Charlie, over these next 20 years, you're going to have probably 5 to 10 times that you're very stressed about, like seriously stressed about finances. Not like little things, but like 5 to 10 that are going to make you like wonder if like, how's this going to work?
You're going to make it. Yeah.
I would say you're going to make it. Like, don't worry. Like it will work out. And you're going to end up on top. Like, and I think that's because for me, the challenges financially have always been to express what I want to do more. Yeah. Right. It's not like I just want to.
Because you know what? You're always on the verge.
That's exactly
you're
right.
You're always on the verge.
Yes. Well,
you're like, what's the next thing, man?
Like I had a call this morning. I'm already looking at this. I want to like expand to like a mega flagship. I'm going to go look at it Thursday, and it's like, but I'm always on the verge.
You have a mega flagship, man.
Yeah, I know, and I'm trying to. But it's I'm very entrepreneurial. I'm very growth minded. And I think the other thing I would say is like you're right. You're going to be right where you need to be. Because I think there was a season where it was like, I got to take over the world.
Sure.
And, you start either seeing how other people are doing and feeling like you're behind. And it's like at 43, things mean a lot less to me than they did at 25 or 27, 30. Because ultimately, like, man, if I can sauna cold plunge, if I can work out, if I can see my kids every day, if I can show up at the gym and want to be there and sign people up and see their lives change, like, honestly, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, I'm good, like, I live the way I want to live, right? So I do the things that I want to do.
I think the stat is 50%, at least 50% of new businesses fail. And so the common thread in this podcast so far is you really have to love what you do. I think when that's true, so if you're not just in it for the money, like you're literally waking up, there's no delineation for me between work and home. It's just this is my family. They're part of my family. My family supports this I mean, it's just part of, like, I love the 24. I mean, my routine is 24/7. I love it. And so if that's it, like, you're not going to fail. Yeah. You can't fail. And, that's what I'm hearing from you, man. I think that's a great message to send to people that are looking to be out there and start a business, is do something that fires you up, regardless of the economics associated with it.
Yeah.
Because, like in your business, it's taken 23. I mean, you're at the top of the game 23 years later, right? And so, I mean, that was a long road. And you're not done.
No.
You're not done.
I feel like
there's more you want to do.
I wanted to say this earlier because you were saying 20 years, and I feel like if I'm honest, and, we can listen to this in 20 years, and Chick-fil-A, 1946, 19 years to open a second location.
Yeah.
They expanded into the mall in 1986. 40 years.
Wow.
And that's what I grew up going to the mall and eating all the samples,
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently, like the last 15, 20 years, that they've exploded.
Overnight success.
And so 19 years to get to 2. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, this is year 20.
Yeah.
And I'm like just getting started. Like I had to do the first 20 years, just to kind of I had to learn a lot, man. I had to get, but I'm just getting started, and this is, I know what I'm here to do, right? I know what I'm called to do. And I think that health in fitness industry has morphed so much just in my 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think the next 20 years are going to even like shock people with what is available to them.
Tech.
Wearables.
Yeah.
You're going to wake up, you're going to know all your vitals, you're going to know everything that you want to know instantly. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's going to create, when you have a longevity health perspective, that's going to attract the customers more than like heavy lifting or, but so for me, it's like, okay, let's go. We're the pioneers, right, of this revolution. So
yeah, you're an inspiration.
Thanks, man.
You're making an impact, and you're staying on the verge, man.
Thank
you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Good to visit.
Yeah, that's a wrap.